Thank you. I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting of the Pullman School District for October 10th, 2018. We'll begin as we always do with our flag salute. Mandy, are you willing to lead us again? Okay, led by Mandy Rovegno. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Next is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Just one addition that was omitted would be under the superintendent's report, and I will have Alec Clavino speaking to the board tonight. So I just want to make sure, because it's not noted on the agenda, but when we get to that point, we'll add to the agenda.
Will that be number 3?
That will be number 3 under my superintendent's report.
Okay.
Other than that, there are no changes.
All right.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move on to reports, correspondence, and program, beginning with board reports. I'd like to begin with Director Reed.
Oh, you would?
Would
I
you
have
like
all this stuff written down somewhere in my bag. Okay, here we go. Pullman High School is my school, and so there's 8 million things going on. Lots of good sports. Homecoming was last week. That was fun, and I love the way the halls were all decorated. I mean, there was so much spirit finally back in the school, and it's just awesome to see. So tomorrow is the end of term number 1 for tomorrow, and then on the 12th there's a professional development day, and it will be here with Vince Martinez. The band concert for Pullman High School is on the 15th of October. The there's the orchestra concert is on the 17th. Choir concert is on the 22nd of October. Girls soccer and girls volleyball play at West Valley tomorrow. Volleyball and girls soccer played here on Saturday. The girls swim goes to Walla Walla on Saturday. The collaboration day is on the 17th, so that's a half-day release. And football will be at West Valley. And of course, I've got to put in my plug. You can also hear the football game if you don't want to go to West Valley on Hits 100. That's 100 FM. Evan and Chris will be there, and also on our app, Pullman Radio, or on stream on the website. So there's no excuse for missing the game, one way or another. Of course, you're there all the time because you're the stellar chain gang. The aging chain gang. The chain gang is getting, my husband's one, and Mitch Chandler and Mike Kelleher, they're sort of slowing down from
I don't
20
think they
years
want
ago.
I don't think they want to hear about that.
Oh, all right, fine. Are you sure? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Director Everman.
Just attended the Sunnyside PTO meeting last week. Well attended, and I almost won the raffle. Almost. I think Amanda won again. I'll keep going. I might win one.
Okay. Thank you. Director Tanner?
I have no report tonight.
Okay. Well, I'll just say I'm surprised that Director Reed and Director Tanner did not mention we attended the WASDA regional meetings last night in St. John, Endicott.
What's your job? Mentioned.
Oh, okay. Well, it was it was my first time visiting that school district, and it's a nice, very nice school out there, and excellent hospitality, and a good time meeting with school directors in our region here in Whitman County.
It was a ladies' night out. Roberta drove us in the fancy Suburban.
Yes, drove us quite excellently through a lot of deer, actually.
Yeah, we were impressed.
No accidents to report. All right. Next, I'll move to the PHS ASB report, delivered as always by Mandy Rovegno.
Hello, good to see you all again.
So today's report is relatively small compared to last week, or 2 weeks ago, which was homecomings. This one is just kind of the wrap up from homecoming. So as Dr. Reed said, we did have homecoming, and I think it went splendidly. The results from our grade competition were that the juniors won. I'm kind of sad. As a senior, we tried really hard, but we weren't able to pull through this year. Maybe during the next dance, we will be able to come through with a win. Following homecoming and all of our dances, we always have a cleanup. So all of our hallways are cleaned up. Every poster that we put out for first term has been cleaned up so that we can start next term off clean with fresh posters for all the fresh events that are coming up. And I wanted to tell you guys about our next upcoming big dance, which is the snowball or the winter formal, which is new. I haven't done that before, but that's going to be in the winter. I don't think a date's been set quite yet that I've heard, but that's going to be almost like a homecoming, semi-formal at the school, except it's going to be winter themed instead of TV shows. So that's my report for the night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mandy. Okay. Next, superintendent's report.
Thank you. So we'll start off with a construction update. So Kamiak Elementary is still on schedule, on budget. We have a visit for the school board set up at the end of the month, so we'll have hard hats and vests available. They are making tremendous progress. We're getting closer and closer to having the front paved, and we'll find out tomorrow if that actually happened. Yesterday and today, or today and tomorrow. So, do you recall, Joe?
It's today and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow. So, our construction meeting's tomorrow, so we'll have an update. We didn't have pictures last week. Dan Gordon, our photographer for construction, was not at the meeting. I did take some photos, but I was having problems with my phone over the weekend, so I was unable to send you photos, but you got emails instead. So, so I'll work on getting those up on the website. Also, we have a phone conversation to talk with initial talks regarding the transportation co-op and that process. And so we have a meeting scheduled to start discussing that process in the application. Moving on from construction update to facilities update. Just to give you a heads up and awareness that over the next 2 weeks, the state is coming and doing lead testing at all the schools, and that's lead in the water, and so we're testing that. The state is in a 2-year process of testing all the schools across Washington State. We applied last year, but we were put on the schedule this year because of the relatively newness of our facilities compared with other school districts across the state. So they're testing this week, and they'll test next week. Takes anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to get the results back. So just want to give the school board a heads up that that is being done. So this is a proactive measure. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe Thornton for the next PHS award presented by NAC.
So someone said earlier that you thought you were done with NAC architecture, but this is a good thing. So they're here to present, to share with us an award that they received, and I reflect back to when Vince Martinez was here a while ago. He was talking to the staff, talking about the great building, and well, it's not perfect, is it? And I had my opportunity in the audience to chime up and say, yes, it is. Yes, it's perfect, but that's my biased opinion. But what I reflect upon as I give tours of this building to lots of people, and as you can imagine, I take great pride in showing this place off. Whether that was to the Colfax School Board looking at doing remodels, whether that's to the Prosser School Board looking to do a new building, or whether that's class reunion tours. I mean, one of the things that everybody marvels at is the space that was carved out in this building for teaching and learning. And you know, knowing the parameters that were given, construction codes, building codes, budget, and the site, people are amazed by how this space, this building fits for our goals for teaching and learning. And they asked me, how did that happen? I said, here's how that happened. The architect spent a lot of time listening to people, listening to teachers, listening to staff, listening to users, and trying to figure out a way to integrate limitations with code, budget, and this site into what people needed this building to do. And I think they hit that nail on the head. They hit a home run. So with that great pleasure, I'd like to introduce Steve McNutt and Keith Comas from NAC. They were two of the leads on this project, and they were instrumental in the finished project that we ended up with. Keith and Steve. By the way, Steve is retired, but but he's here.
Came out retired.
So this award is an honor award from the Washington State AIA Civic Design Award Program. And I have to correct Joe. This award is actually not to the building and it's not to the architects, but it's actually to you, the client. It's a pretty special and prestigious award for several reasons. One is that it is actually an award to the client. And the purpose of the award is to recognize clients of publicly funded projects who actually support and are committed to providing design excellence for their users, in your case, the students. Don't take this for granted. This is super important. You would not see the success of this project if it wasn't for that support and commitment by Pullman School District, and we don't take it for granted. Second of all, this is a statewide program, so that means that we're competing against the very competitive Puget Sound marketplace, and this project was the only project from the east side that won an honor award, and the honor award is the highest award in this program, ahead of merit and citation. So go Inland Empire. And third, it's really challenging to get a design award for a large project. Architects are sort of attracted to the simplicity of smaller projects. For example, in this design awards program, there were 2 fire stations that won awards. They have truck bays, living quarters, and a few offices. How hard is that? Anyway, jury comments, I want to pass along a couple of those. We pay very close attention to the jury comments, and it sort of helps us understand what they appreciated about the project. The jury did note the unique programs within the school, the learning spaces. We had images of the broadcast studio, the metal shop, the auditorium, so they really sort of understood the complexity of some of the spaces that were part of the school program. They were impressed by the various student collaboration spaces, student gathering spaces, and also how those spaces were really bathed with natural daylight. And finally, they appreciated the overall character of the building, and they actually said they felt like it had a bit of a collegiate quality, which I thought was kind of interesting considering the context of Pullman with sort of the collegiate environment. And they also said that they felt that the project, as Joe described a little bit, fit very well within the context of the Palouse Hills. So those were the jury comments. So congratulations. I know Steve certainly wants to add a few words as well.
Yeah, I just want to add a little personal perspective. I've been doing this a long time and finally put out to pasture. But I've been principal in charge of 16 high school projects dating back to the mid-'80s. And along the way, there were a lot of really good projects that won lower tier awards. This is the only high school in all of those that ever won an honor award. And it won an honor award at the local level and at the statewide level. So this is pretty prestigious. And it compares, just so you know, to 11 major high school projects in the Spokane area, many of which won awards, but never at this level. So that part was terrific. And I really think that there was a lot of good chemistry at work in this project. And that chemistry, I think, was, first of all, rooted in Pullman School District with the wonderful aspirations you brought to the project. And that kind of aspirational enthusiasm was positively contagious. We all jumped on board, and it sort of permeated the whole office, the whole team, and was hard to resist. Everybody at the home office I know has a tremendous amount of pride in this project and in this outcome. But I want to circle back to patting you as a client back on the back, but especially to Paul Sturm, who kind of was the gave birth to this project, and to Joe Thornton, who ushered this project along in a more engaged way than I've seen any administrator, who helped us along the way with tremendous problem solving. And when we came to crossroads for decisions, he was decisive. His judgment was well reasoned. He wasn't a yes man. He held our feet to the fire now and then, but generally agreed with us. But I just wanted you to know, with 16 major high school projects in my background, no administrator has ever contributed as much to a project as Joe did on this one. So the complexity of building a 200,000 square foot high school on top of the footprint of a 170,000 square foot existing school, I don't think we would have made it without Joe's help. So thank you very much.
So we have two certificates here. One for the high school itself, and then one that you can keep in the administrative offices. At least that was the intent. So can I hand them to someone?
Thank you.
Well, you can just come along and I'll shake your hand because I think it's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for coming out of retirement and visiting.
This is fun.
Yeah. You did have something to do with this award too, you know.
I was just the band leader. Thanks for trying to
Yeah, congratulations to you too, Joe.
Team effort.
Take it. Oh, please.
Okay. Next up on the superintendent's report, I'd like to invite up Rob Matthews, who will introduce our guest speaker.
Podium. So my name is Rob Matthews. I'm the FFA advisor and the agri-science education teacher here at PHS. And so tonight we have with us one of my FFA members, Alec Clavino, who won this state extemporaneous speaking competition and is competing at nationals in about a week or 2 weeks. And so the extemporaneous speaking, how that works is they draw a topic essentially out of a hat. It was a bucket today. And they have to look on the list and choose which one of those topics they want to use. And so they choose 3 topics out, and then they pick the one that's on there. So they don't know what it is coming in ahead of time. They have a book of resources that they've spent time coming close to topics, similar topics, and then they have 30 minutes to write a speech. And so he's going to give his speech he wrote this evening, and then we're going to open up to questions if you guys have any questions regarding his topic. So, all right, go ahead.
International relations are the backbone of the American agriculture industry. For the sector of the economy that is the most essential for sustaining human health across the globe, it's no surprise that the United States is the largest agricultural producer in the world. However, due to recent conflicts with our largest trade partner, the American agriculture industry is in sort of a rough patch right now. My name is Alec Clavino from the Pullman FFA chapter in Washington State, and today I'm going to speak to you about why it is so detrimental that the United States must develop better trade relations with the country of China in order to bring the American agriculture industry out of this rough patch and back into the spotlight. In June of 2018, President Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on steel imports and a 15% tariff on aluminum imports from foreign countries. All of the major world powers that were affected by these tariffs, most notably Canada, Mexico, and the European Union, all imposed retaliatory tariffs of their own. However, the country of China's retaliatory tariffs were directly targeted towards the agriculture industry. China is the largest export destination for American soybeans, and as such, the American soybean industry was hit the hardest by these tariffs. Another heavily taxed upon crop was the #1 crop grown right here in the Palouse, wheat, where my family lives and farms. The 25% tariffs imposed on wheat exports to China have had vast negative effects on my family, my community, and producers all across the country. Due to the 25% tariffs on wheat exports, our sales to Asia have drastically decreased. And as sales drop, so do prices, almost by 15% in just a few months. And as prices fall, so do profits. These vastly detrimental profit losses have extreme negative effects on the American agriculture industry. But our country is not just going to let this happen to one of our largest industries. We are going to battle back. However, the way that our country is battling back right now is by simply imposing more tariffs of our own on Chinese products. Over time, this just becomes a back and forth battle on who can impose more tariffs on the other country. And right now, it's looking to a point where almost every single Chinese product that is imported to the United States will be taxed upon. In order to compensate for the lost profits from the workers in the agriculture industry, the United States Department of Agriculture has approved a plan to provide up to $12 billion of emergency financial aid for the farmers in the industry, especially those working with soybeans. While this does provide sufficient financial funds in order to compensate for the losses, it is still a temporary problem or a temporary solution, for an ongoing problem. In order to solve this problem completely, there must be a trade agreement settled with China. Recently, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, was passed by the three named countries, and will go into effect at the end of November in order to replace the 24 years going North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. In the 24 years that it's been in effect, NAFTA has greatly benefited the agriculture industries of all three countries, and hopefully the USMCA will do exactly that to a further extent. In light of this recently passed trade agreement, there's a looming possibility that a similar trade agreement will be passed between the United States and China. If a free trade agreement similar to NAFTA can be passed between the United States and China, markets will open up, prices will rise, and the American agriculture industry will see huge profits. Now is as dire time as ever to hold a strong standing in the world economy. And if the two largest world economic superpowers can accomplish a free trade agreement, we can achieve just that. Thank you.
Does the audience have any questions?
Just half an hour ago?
Yeah, well, roughly before we got into the room, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Most impressive.
And is there a time limit for your speech when you give it?
It has to be between 4 and 6 minutes.
And do you just feel that, or do you actually time yourself?
I have my watch in case I need it, but usually when I'm preparing my speech in the 30 minutes, I just have kind of a feel for how long my speech will be.
So I like to start with a topic in your mind, like, so you've done some research in this topic, and so then whatever piece that you select, you build it around that. Is that how you structure it?
So the topic I was given today is to describe which country better trade relations would have the best impact on American agriculture. And because I knew a lot about how the current trade war that's going on with China, I decided I'd base my speech around that. And using the resources I have prepared, I was able to get a few numbers and facts in there, and then just be able to use the knowledge I have and just work around that in my speech.
I noticed you had a card, but you didn't really look at it. Was that just in case?
It's just in case. Yeah.
Okay.
When I'm writing my speech, I do use my note card because writing it down helps me memorize it in the process. And if there's a topic I'm not as comfortable with, I a lot of times will have to use my note card in writing it or in presenting it, but hopefully I don't have to.
It was very unobtrusive the way it kind of hid in the palm of your hand.
Sneaky.
I had another question. I noticed in your introduction, like you say a couple sentences and then you introduce yourself. Is that like a standard formula for this kind of a speech?
A lot of people do it that way. Some people don't. Some people don't introduce themselves at all. I've just found that this format just works well for me specifically, so I just decided to go with it.
So how many rounds, or what's the process at nationals?
So at nationals, we're divided into, I believe, 4 or 6 groups, or 8, or a certain amount of groups.
I think it's
and then, I don't know the exact numbers, but they take the top 2 from each group, and then those 2 move on to the second round, and then they take the top 4 from the second round, and those top 4 go to finals.
How many of these speeches have you done?
Not a lot.
Wow.
State convention was in May, I think?
Yeah.
Early May. So since then, I've been practicing this since almost every week, and as it's coming closer, nearly every day, I've just gotten more and more used to the process.
So as you're going through, like at nationals, is it a different speech each time, or is it the same speech?
It'll be a different speech each time.
Holy
So
cow.
for each round, they have a list of 18 topics, and you draw 3 of them randomly, and then you pick which one of the 3 you like best. And for each round, they have 18 completely different topics, so you're not going to get the same topic twice.
Impressive.
Very.
Well done.
Nice job. Well done.
I thought your eye contact was really good.
Yeah.
And I like the way that you introduced President Trump. You really didn't say anything derogatory about him. It was mainly his policies. And I think that's a good approach to take, because I think frequently in the civil discourse, we try and do that, but we end up attacking a person rather than their policies. So I thought you handled that very well, very diplomatic. You'd be a good diplomat. So, good job.
It was great.
Make us proud.
Yes.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
being here tonight.
you.
Taking
Thank
time out of
you.
your day. Next we have Shannon, the communications report.
Yes, but that's under me.
Oh,
See?
sorry. Well, you can go. You can introduce it.
Would you be willing to open up the PowerPoint for me?
I can. Whoop. Oh. Did you put it down there, Shannon?
No, it's in the packet.
Well, that's not good. Hold on. Try it again. It opened up to something else. Not good.
Instead of clicking, you can just scroll down.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that.
Page 6.
I'll get there in just a second.
Well, while we're waiting, I'll just comment. Those last 2 presentations were thrilling in their own way. That was just amazing. And those of us who hear people of that age group a lot, that was,
Very well done.
yeah, no uses of the word like, for example, was a big difference.
Oh, you knows or
That is excellent.
Yes.
That's really good. Would you be willing to shrink it just a tiny bit?
Yep.
Can you
Shrink
shrink
it
it just
a
a little bit
tiny
so the
bit.
whole slide
let me
shows
shrink
that?
it a little bit.
Do a little minus, oh, that works too. At the bottom, you see the little minus sign.
There it is.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Whew, we got there.
Finally. All right,
Thank
you're up.
you for letting me share a little bit of an update on communications this evening. So to start off with, our values in terms of communications as a district are that we place students first, always. We act with respect and integrity at all times, and our goal is to be absolutely transparent with everything we do. And so if you will notice, those are the same values presented last year because they are not going to change. A few areas of focus that we've had this year and that we have carried over from previous years. These are just general areas that are important to us, including board involvement. And the next slide includes our communication liaisons. So each of our board members focuses on a specific school. They bring updates to board meetings about what's happening in that school. They attend events and PTA booster meetings in that school as well. And that seems to have been really impactful in terms of getting our board members out and visible in schools and relating with our staff members and parents. Another area, if you want to go down one more, is superintendent communications, and that's another area that we've focused on specifically the last couple of years. Dr. Maxwell spends a lot of time attending parent meetings as well. He goes to a lot of our staff meetings. His calendar is just crazy. Every day he's got meetings out in schools and in the community. And then we also updated our office hours this year. So Bob goes to each of the schools now. So each month we'll be rotating which building his office hours are at to allow more staff members to come. And we've already noticed a huge increase in the number of staff members that have been able to spend time with Bob.
Yeah.
And the next slide is the superintendent newsletter. We've been doing that for probably a year and a half, and it seems to have been really well received. We put a lot of updates in there, great things that are happening in our schools, finance updates, personal anecdotes from Dr. Maxwell, a lot of photos, shout outs to, cool things that our staff members are doing. Continuing communications. We do weekly emails out to all families, updating them on what events are happening in our schools the following week. We have a website that we update a lot. We put a lot of content on there, and we continue to seek ways to improve that as well so that community members and families can find what they're looking for and hopefully find it more easily. We have very active social media accounts, and I'll share a little bit more about those in a moment. Dr. Maxwell does a lot of presentations out in the community, Kiwanis, Chamber, Lions, Rotary, all of those groups. Let's see, we have increased the number of program reports that we have at board meetings for the last year and a half or so. So as we have tonight, we do kind of departmental reports to the board so that you're more familiar with what's happening in various areas of the school district. And then upcoming things, we are hoping to do a thought exchange process in the spring that would be community-wide, and will hopefully provide a foundation for a strategic plan kickoff, because it's been probably almost 10 years since we've done a full overhaul of our strategic plan. And then coming up, hopefully later this month, we're still working with our local legislators to come up with a date that works for them. We'll do another education showcase. This would be our third year in a row of showcasing our schools and the great things happening in them. And we invite our legislators and our city council members, local leaders, so that they're more familiar with what's happening in our schools as well. All right, so a few analytics related to our social media accounts. So that first one is Twitter Insights, and as you can see, I've got the last 3 years of data. We've grown, let's see, 126 followers in the past year since our last report. We tweet probably once, twice a day. We do a lot of retweets of school accounts. The middle school and the high school are both very active. And then Sunnyside and Franklin have also implemented Twitter this year. And so they've got pretty active accounts, and it's fun to see more elementary level updates. In the next one, you can see how many followers. I didn't get Sunnyside on there, my apologies. Kamiak does have an account as well. They've had one for the past year. And they show a lot of construction-related updates right now. And then Facebook. See, this shows 3 years of data. And we have, let's see, right now, 872 followers on Facebook. And this year alone, so just in the 9.5 months of the year, we've had 237 posts on Facebook. So
that's the calendar year?
And just this year, yes, from
Okay.
January through mid-October.
So about one a day?
Yeah. Over the summer, it got a little quieter. I think July we had 10 updates, but then one month, I think it was like 40, 45. Just depends on the month and what's happening. We have really good engagement. Our posts typically reach anywhere from 400 is kind of a minimum number, up to several thousand for some of our more popular posts. So Facebook seems to be our most popular area of engagement with community members and parents. Okay, so if you want to, here's our website, and I think it looks like visits have dropped slightly from last year. I couldn't tell you why, except maybe more people check things out on Facebook, since that's where a lot of news is being posted. So there's numbers. I don't have a lot of insight into why they're slightly lower, but they're not hugely different from last year. Okay, so new things. This is the exciting part of the presentation. The first one, the board requested a communications advisory committee to be implemented this year. So they started meeting, I believe August was the first meeting, and it consists of teachers and 2 board members, myself, and then 2 community members. And we met 4 times this fall with the goal of kind of providing some direction for a few communications initiatives as a district. And the first one was to implement an ombuds. And the ombuds was available for a month from August 15th to September 15th. And that was for community members to just share any concerns they may have that were sensitive or that they wanted confidential, they didn't feel comfortable bringing directly to the board. A second initiative is their staff climate survey, and that will be conducted either late this month or perhaps early November. And then they discussed kind of a loose outline for what a community survey may look like, and I mentioned that we'll be doing thought exchange in the spring. And then at our 4th meeting, which we had prior to our last board meeting, we just discussed kind of general communications ideas. We will meet again probably in the spring when we have a little bit more data to work with, and we can create a few more goals moving forward. All right, so, oh, nope, too far. There we go. A new thing that we were really excited about this fall is we had a really generous PEF member who donated money to pay for all of these I Heart Pullman Public Schools shirts. So all of our new employees got one of these, and it was really fun to go around to the schools with Dr. Maxwell, and all of our new teachers were wearing their new shirts. They've been very popular, and we will shortly have a website available where all staff members and community members and kiddos will have kid sizes on there as well. They can check out those shirts. And then Samantha Shirtenlieb had suggested doing a Why Wednesday. And so each Wednesday we're featuring a school district employee. So far they've been teachers, but it doesn't have to be limited to teachers, sharing why they started teaching or why they got involved in education. And for me, it's been really powerful to see that each of us has a story and each of us really has a heart for students. So it's been really fun to share those. Oh no, I hope these okay, we have videos because we couldn't open the PowerPoint. They will not work right now. Are you able to, do we want to try the PowerPoints again, or we can go out to YouTube? Either way.
Probably go out to YouTube would be the easiest.
Can I do it from here?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can do it really quick.
Because every time I click on it, it takes me back to the list.
Those question marks look.
Yeah, something's. Well, I'd be going through Explorer, so you don't know why.
There's no sound. Okay, we're having all kinds of technical difficulties this evening. There's no sound. This one is okay without music because it's all written on the screen. The other one's going to be a little bit less enjoyable without sound. While we're looking for speakers, I'll let you guys watch this one. This was a video. All of our new teachers were asked why they're teaching, what prompted them to become a teacher. And so we showed this at our back to school kickoff.
A lot more impactful than you.
Yeah. I saw it. I went back.
I was going to say, you've seen it.
Does anybody need me to start over?
No,
I think this
fine.
That was one of the first videos we did this year, and then oh, we don't want that. Okay, and then I'll show you this video as well. This video features a handful of our ELL students.
Hola. 你好. Hola. 你好. 안녕하세요. Hola. 武汉. 안녕하세요.
Sing Chow.
안녕하세요. 你好. Hola. 你好. 환영합니다. 欢迎来到中国. Sean bienvenidos. 欢迎光临. 환영합니다. 欢迎来到中国. Bienvenidos.
환영합니다. Bienvenidos.
欢迎来到中国. Bienvenidos. 欢迎. 谢谢蛮多的.
I just wanted to show off some of the work we've been doing this year. Dave is our video intern, and thank you, Allison, for the suggestion. He's done some great work, and it's been really nice to have someone whose dedicated job it is to work on videos for us. Do you have any questions for me?
Just comments, I love it. I love the why from the teachers, that's really important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the piece on the students speaking in their own language, how empowering that is. When I saw that, I saw it earlier this week. I don't know when you posted that.
Late last week, maybe?
Yeah, so I saw it, and yeah, I thought how powerful that was.
Yeah. That was a really fun video to film, actually, to get to meet all of those students. And I had never been actually in one of the ELD, is that the right acronym? I hadn't been in any of their classes before to watch the instruction. It was really fun to watch. Isabel and Kelly are very, very good at what they do. And Omran, is that how you say it? Yeah, at Jefferson, Omran. A lot of fun. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay. The next part of the agenda is the visitors section. It's for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of a group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. The board will listen and may offer clarification, but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. Please keep your comments civil and respectful and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We do not have any visitors signed in to speak tonight. As a matter of fact, we only have one visitor in the audience at this moment. Do you care to address the board, or? Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you for being here with us. And so with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, records destruction, ASB fundraisers, warrants, transfer requests, personnel report, professional and personal services contracts, and an overnight field trip request. I would now entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay. Moving along, we have 2 action items this evening. The first, the minimum basic education compliance report, or I'm not sure what you call this.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
The minimum basic requirement report.
Yeah.
So, and Shannon's here to speak on that if you have any questions. She
Yes.
presented last time.
Yes.
So this report is an annual requirement. It was presented at the last board meeting. If there are no questions, you're welcome to approve it.
Yes, I expect that we will approve it. I will remark that at the WASDA meeting last night, we were hearing how many districts have switched to seven-period
period.
day
Mhm.
for high school, and, you know, what would that look like? Not saying that we would do that, but just at some point, we might wish to explore the ramifications in terms of minutes and so forth.
Is that in an effort to capture more minutes with
But
students
it's in an
or
effort
credits?
to capture the 24 credit diploma.
Okay.
Is how that's, I mean, if,
Mhm.
but that is a change that's happening, and for just something to think about.
Yeah, and that would definitely require some research to make sure
Yeah.
we're meeting our minutes requirements for each course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other comments? Is there a motion
I
regarding?
move approval of the minimum basic education compliance.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this reporting of our minimum basic education compliance. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right, it is approved. Thank you, Shannon. Next, we have policy 1400, meeting conduct, order of business, and quorum, presented by Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. And I'm going to see if I can scroll down to see if that would be easier. Hold on a second. Because every time I open it up, it's going to take a while to get launched back in. So let me see if this might be easier. So again, this was presented last time, and this is WASDA update, and it was just revised, so there's some minor title changes. There's some additional language, 7.0. Again, this is basically saying that an individual doesn't have to sign up to attend a board meeting. This has nothing to do with speaking. This is just to attend. Also in 7.0, the board may structure a public comment period, and you get to determine the total allotted time for the comment. And you're not obligated to provide additional public comment time to accommodate everyone if there was a super large crowd. So again, there's some additional language regarding, and it's quite clear in our policy, you're not obligated to respond to questions or challenges made during a public comment period, and that why you're not commenting back, that doesn't mean you in any way agree or disagree with any of the comments that are being said. Let me scroll down to the actual document. So again, 5.0 is just adding and voting, just a title change. You can see that, again, during board meetings, board members will refrain from communicating electronically. This was, I think, your only real discussion item, but you would refrain from that unless obviously it was absolutely necessary. If there was an emergency, someone was contacting from home, that type of thing.
I totally disagree with that.
So.
Sorry. But when we have our own business and my husband goes to bed early and someone is looking for an ad or something like that, they will text me and ask me, and it's something I can't wait to respond to. So I think that's asking me to give up my work is wrong. I'm not saying I'm texting my kids or anything else, but there are times when I have to take care of actual work things. An ad is missing, I need to help the production person who's only there in the evening try and find it, then I have to help them.
That sounds like
I suppose I could just leave the meeting.
No, it sounds like it's absolutely necessary then.
Well,
If you had a word suggestion or this, because
no, I just think the whole concept it's
I'm happy to go back
infringing on me, and I object to it is all.
Okay. And I think we were just trying to build in some.
I know, but we're not a kindergarten class. I mean, we're all adults, and we should be able to behave respectfully and appreciate what's going on. I don't think we need to be having little how we can behave things like this spelled out that completely. It offends me. So.
Any other questions on that particular change? Well, I'm open to other suggestions if you'd like. 7.0 public attendance, again, those are taken straight out of this and put into the summary. There's also kind of a detailed thing to what may be considered uncivil comments, and so there's just a list of, and these are taken straight from the WASDA policy, and you saw these last time. You also, the board has the final decision determining the appropriateness of all such rulings and can maintain order by asking people who may be disruptive to leave.
Is this in WASDA policy, or is this what has been added to?
This is the new WASDA additions.
So,
And it's strictly WASDA that has come up with this?
All of this is strictly WASDA.
But not the part
once
of,
again, it's like we're being treated like we are the students as well, I think.
the part about the cell phone, though, I think I said. So if that is a point of contention.
It is for me, but that doesn't, I am only one.
Well, but
so it's fine.
What would you feel?
Because I feel
better with?
I think,
because
I'm surprised Nathan would go, because he
well, I mean, we've already
reference and everything else. I was surprised he's willing to go along with that.
Well, we've already tweaked it a little bit because this is a little bit different than what you brought last time.
It's a little bit different.
Because we're all in different situations. I have to check my text messages in case there's an emergency with my children.
Absolutely.
So we all have some sort of situation outside of this room that we may or may not need to address. So I think that it needs to be something that everybody's
But I just don't think it
with.
needs to be. I think it's insulting, but that's me.
So, but I would say both of those circumstances are necessities for you.
Correct, but do we
But
have
the
to
point
explain
is-
to you if we're on our phone that I'm sorry, this is a necessity and this is why I'm doing this? How do you know? I guess I would have to tell you.
I would assume that you would only do it if it was a necessity, but the policy just provides guidance.
I don't know. Because Nathan, I know, is on his phone all the time, looking up wax and OSPI stuff and WASDA stuff during meetings. I'm surprised he didn't object to this too. I think, aren't we grown up enough to know that it's not right to use your cell phone during a meeting unless you have to?
Well, obviously, there are some people that are abusing it.
And I don't think that that's happening in this boardroom. I mean, this didn't come from anybody in this room. This was a state thing, and I think that we should be comfortable with what we're choosing to put in our policies.
I'm only, as I said, I'm only one. I don't like it, but I'm only one. So the rest of you want to go for it, fine. It doesn't have to be unanimous.
It's not a question of wording, it's a question of principle.
That is.
Okay. So just the reason that it exists at all is because there have been boards that have gotten in trouble for actually communicating with each other during.
But that would
meetings.
be a board protocol thing, I think, rather than something in this kind of a policy.
Yeah.
This policy is for audiences. And yet during the audience thing, you're telling the board what they can and cannot do.
Well, this is our original language, was during board meetings will refrain from communicating electronically. That was always been there.
Yes.
The WASDA piece was with their fellow board members will refrain from board business related to electronic communications during a board meeting. That's where boards have gotten into.
Well, they're texting each other.
You're right, yes, communicating with each other during a board meeting is.
Well, to me, that's board protocol rather than something that's in a.
But that's what they had added into this policy.
Well,
That's what
I think
So
it's absolutely the wrong place for
So
it.
we loosened it up by saying, unless absolutely necessary.
Or if you have a suggestion of where you would like this language.
I would suggest it be in board protocol, because board protocol is what we look at every single year we sign and agree to, how we are going to react and behave and that sort of thing. This is about, it starts off with what the visitors are talking about, not what we're talking about, and then all of a sudden it goes into telling us how we have to behave. I think there's...
Well, it's a combination, because it's also, your regular meeting, your special meetings. It's kind of they've kind of combined something, I think, in here.
Meeting conduct, I mean, the policy does cover meeting conduct, just indicating that when we're here, we're focused on what's going on right here.
Sorry, it bothers me. I think I'm grown up enough that I'm not good at rules. Sorry. It just seems that, it just bothers me that it's in there, but as I said, it's fine. I'll vote no, but everybody else can vote yes, and it won't bother me.
Okay.
I just am letting you know how I feel about it. Don't like it.
Well,
I mean, under the circumstances, I'm actually not ready to approve this policy. If Susan's uncomfortable with it, I know that Nathan had some discussion about it last week and he's not here. I feel like maybe, is it something that we can maybe postpone and bring back later?
Yeah, we can bring it back. You don't have to vote on it.
It's not something that we need to do immediately, is it?
Nope, nope.
Okay.
It's just essential recommendations from WASA, but there's no rush to vote on it tonight whatsoever. So,
Okay.
and if board members have suggestions, and please send them. I'd be happy to take another crack at it. So.
Okay.
all right. So
Do I need to move to postpone this action item, or do we not do anything with it?
What you do is make the motion to
Table it?
table it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I would move to table discussion and action on 1400 meeting conduct order of business and forum.
Second.
thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we table this item. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you.
It's fun to have a spirited discussion now and then, so.
Well, I'll see if I can make this next one a little more spirited as well.
Okay.
Oh, I'll be glad to pitch in.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be much discussion to this next one, but we can
No.
try.
Okay. Moving along then, we are now in our discussion items, beginning with policy 3413, student immunization and life-threatening health conditions.
Yes, so this policy was updated to align with WASA's recommendation. This was also been confirmed and reviewed by Michelle Hyatt, our lead district nurse. There are just two additions noted below to be added to the current policy. And you'll see these. One is exemptions from immunization. It basically says exactly this. The district will allow for exemptions from immunization requirements only as allowed for by RCW 28A 210-090. And exclusion from school. The district will exclude students only as allowed for by RCW 28A 210-120 and WAC 392380050. There's the first one that's been inserted. There is the second that's been inserted, and I did, there's also been 3 cross-references that were added as well. Sorry, I left those out of the exec summary. There were 2 other policies and procedure sets that were in this last WASDA Policy Magazine. You may have noticed that they're not in this packet. That's because there are no changes that were needed. Our policies already covered those. So Michelle's double-checked those as well. Any questions?
It was not the spirited discussion I had envisioned.
No.
All right. Well then, let's move on to policy 3131, actually policy procedure and form 3131, district attendance areas.
So, based on our discussion and going back into taking a look at revamping our in-district transfer policy and procedure due to now that we do have elementary attendance areas, I've gone back and spent a lot of time looking over 2 policies actually and 2 sets of procedures. We had 3130 30, and we also had 3131. Both of those contained some transfer language. So we had two different policies, two different procedures. WASDA only has policy 3131, no procedure, because that's individualized for each district. So what I attempted to do was take the relevant parts out of 3130, incorporate them into 3131, so that we only had one policy and procedure rather than two policies and two different procedures. And try to incorporate it, because there were two things that were in our current policies. One was, how do you transfer to another school and district? The other was, how does the district proceed if they need to transfer students? And so you're going to see those, how we've broken those out and incorporate those into one policy and one procedure. All right. So taking our 3131 policy, district attendance area transfers, so we have district attendance areas. You'll notice that parent or guardian may request their child be allowed to attend another school in the district. Request should be submitted to the superintendent's office using the form 3131F, which has also been adjusted, by the way, if you noticed. Request for in-district student transfer. Then in the policy, so a couple other changes. All the black is current. Under hardship, whether the student's transfer is likely to create a risk of the health or safety of students or staff at the building, I've added or cause financial hardship to the district. Financial hardship could be if accepting more students would put class loads up really high, and then of course that would be a financial commitment to the district. If the district was in a financial bind, that would cause a financial hardship, as an example. Or having to bus students to a certain school, that could cause a financial hardship. Shall to will, and then the legal references have been updated. So the policy really not as much changes, just a few clarifications. Where does the form go? And adding financial hardship. One other thing I want to do point out that we have added as well, transfers must be granted to a student if the student, is a child of a full-time or part-time certificated or classified school employee. The law says full-time. Our practice has been part-time, and part-time was also negotiated in the last contract. So this is being updated so it aligns with the collective bargaining agreement for the teachers. And it's something we've practiced historically anyway. But if you actually read that WAC, you would not see the word part-time. You would only see full-time.
So if a teacher works, let's say like our STEM teacher works in all three elementary buildings,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean they can pick which?
Typically, our teachers do pick a school that they're most comfortable in, or maybe they spend the most time at if they're
But
part-time.
they could have their choice then if they work.
They could have their choice.
Any type of elementary specialist.
Because we have some that work, for example, between two schools and not three.
Yeah. Okay.
When it says the students who qualify for services under McKinney-Vento homeless education shall be exempt from the attendance area transfer, does that mean you don't have, I don't understand what that means. Does that mean they don't have to ask for a transfer, they can just transfer? Or does that mean they're stuck where they are no matter what?
They have specific rights. So they have specific rights to the school that they originally attended. So for an example, if they become homeless and now they're living in a shelter, even in Idaho, they would have rights to attend their last attended school for at least a year.
Okay, well, to me, this was a kind of a questionable statement in that they're exempt from attendance area transfer. So that sounds like to me, it sounds like they can't transfer, but you're saying that
They can, but this is strictly out of what WASDA and the McKinney-Vento language, which is not that helpful or clear, but
no.
they have certain rights to
Sure.
attend the school that they've spent the most time in, for continuity's sake.
So the attendance area transfer requirements, maybe? I don't know. I just felt that it was needed a.
And if you have a suggestion, Susan, yeah, please let me know, and I
Yeah,
can
I'll
take a
have to
look
look.
at it to see.
Interesting. Okay.
We tend not to mess too much with McKinney-Vento since it is
Oh,
a
no, no, no. I
federal,
don't mean that, but
federal language, which always is not the most clear, by the way.
yes. I'm figuring that out.
Yes. So students who qualify for services under McKinney-Vento education shall be exempt from attendance area transfer. And basically, that means that if there was a situation where we had to move kids, let's say overcrowding, they would be exempt from that. We would select another student above the McKinney-Vento student.
Which is a good thing.
So any questions on this policy 3131? Okay, I'm going to move on to the procedure because that's where you're going to see most of the changes here. See if I can make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. So in our previous or in our current 3130, you can see that I've marked this 3131. So this would be, we would get rid of 3130 completely, both the policy and procedure, and go to 3131. So we've broken this up to in-district attendance transfers. So the following factors would be considered, and some of these are stricken because they talked about developing attendance area boundaries and that, well, we already have those. So this is just talking strictly in-district attendance area transfers. So obviously we try to minimize the disruptions of established learning programs. That could be, for instance, a special education program that has specialized programming for a student. Keeping siblings in the same elementary school. Maintaining a relationship with a middle school or a high school attendance area. Now, you may only say we only have one middle school or one high school, but in the future, if you had two, that's why that way I decided to just leave it. Adjusting class size to available space. So you're going to see class size. We've moved away from class load to class size for consistency in language. So, based on feedback that we heard in the elementary attendance area from some parents and community members, this is an attempt to address concerns if wanting my child to stay at their current school even though they now fall into the attendance area of another elementary school. So for the 2019 2020 school year only, students impacted by the newly established elementary attendance areas will be given first priority when requesting and submitting a transfer request by March 15th. We want to get those in early so we have an idea of how many are requesting that, so then we can develop how much staffing we're going to need at each school, so then we know how many teachers we're either over or under at each school. Does that make sense?
So basically, we're providing a year transition time.
Correct. Well, if we want to get this done as early as possible so everybody knows way in advance where they will be attending. And we'll know way in advance so we can get teachers placed in a timely manner before the end of the school year. That would be my goal. To attend their former school. This means student transfer requests will be considered first over in-district and out-of-district choice transfer requests that are submitted. Transfers will be granted based on class size limit at each grade level. So in our collective bargaining agreement, we have class sizes. So if we have room under that, and ability to accept that, then they will be granted. If we don't, then they would not be granted. So if class size was 25, and when we take a look, we have 18, we can accept students, 19, 20, 21, 22, and so on. Other in-district student transfer requests will be considered in this order. Students who attended a school and moved to a new attendance area but would like to remain, that's what this paragraph talks to. Students who previously attended the school on an in-district transfer. So we have students currently that are attending schools on an in-district transfer. They live right next door to Jefferson, but they're going to Franklin. New in-district transfer requests, and then out-of-district students requesting transfer to a different school or to a school. So we have out-of-district, so out-of-district would be number 4 in that line. So preference, then who's next, who would be considered next, who would be considered next.
And this is not including certificated staff's children.
Because they automatically
get it.
get it. Yes, correct. You are absolutely correct.
The last item there, that's the,
Number 4. So approved out-of-district students requesting transfer to a different school.
so if they're a choice student and they're already been assigned to a school,
Right.
they would be last.
They would be last. Yep.
Okay,
Which is our process that we've used.
sure, okay.
So someone choices in from out of district, they don't get to pick what school they go to.
They can select,
They get
but
last pick.
They get
they
last
get
pick.
last pick.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
got you.
And on number 1, students who attended a school, I assume in some of those cases, several of those cases, it would be several students from the same family.
Yes.
So you would either need to accept all of them or none of them, based on
Depending.
space in each grade.
Sometimes we've actually run into that in the past, and sometimes we are able to accept, sometimes we're not, and sometimes parents choose one to go to one school and one to the other, or they choose to move to one of the schools that has room for both or all siblings.
So this is basically, because I know that the word like grandfather clause is being thrown around in the community. So this is basically a 1-year grandfather clause if we can accommodate.
If we can accommodate, yeah.
Okay.
And then remember, they always have number 2 the following year. See, for this, then number 1's going to go away, right? And then the order will be students. So if you attend it, right? So let's say you were 2019, you were in Sunnyside and scheduled to go to Jefferson, and you were accepted in. Then the next year, you're already counted in that number.
So they still have to apply each year.
You still have to apply each year, but
You'd be number 1.
you'd be number 1, then number 2, then number 3. So I tried to take a look at what a process, rather than saying straight out, we're going to grandfather everybody in, because that wouldn't work number-wise. And trying to give some choice and some ways to accommodate at least a portion of folks that may want to have their students stay where they're currently at. Good question, so keep them coming.
You want to review the rest of it?
Okay, I'll review the rest and we can come back.
Okay.
So then, our 3130, actually had this language. District determined need for student transfers. So there are rare occasions when overcrowding occurs in a school, and it is necessary to transfer students from one school grade level to another. You can see our original language here. We've added if overcrowding exists, we go volunteer first. Students who are attending the school by choice transfer from another district will be considered to transfer on a last enrolled basis. That's the language we've always had. Students are attending the school in-district transfer from another school area will be considered for transfer on a last enrolled basis. So whoever gets in theirs last would be last to go. We've taken out the next one because it didn't really apply any longer. Students who live within the school attendance boundary area, and actually boundary should be out, that should be stricken, so we need them, that was supposed to be. But outside of the district identified safe walking zone will be considered for a transfer on a last enrolled basis. The district shall provide transportation for the student to attend the school in which he or she is transferred. That's actually our current language, but changed at the beginning a little bit. Students who live within the district identified safe walking zones of the school will be considered on a last enrolled basis. So a lot of this was just tweaked a little bit, but remains the same language that we've had.
So on number 4 there, if people in category 1 from up above choose to stay in their current school, we will
not provide transportation.
Okay.
It's only if we have to move. That's a great question, though. So in this one, they're responsible for transportation.
Okay.
If we have to move, then we're responsible for transportation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I've looked over this so many times, my eyes have crossed. So, that's it. Tried to make it really straightforward, simple, and easy to follow. That was the intent.
Okay, the form? Is the form here too?
Oh,
or is that,
sorry. Yeah. So in the form, sorry, here, let me see if I can get this question here. So I tried to keep the form relatively the same and just add some clarification. So it would be, please complete a separate form for each student requesting a transfer. We took out home and work based on some feedback that were sent in because most of the time it's a cell or some number, so give us 2 numbers. I added, has a student previously attended the school to which the student is requesting a transfer? That's way I know, okay, are they a number 1 priority student or?
And then would you verify?
We would verify, yeah. We're just not going to say. I also added this, student previously attended the school to which they're requesting a transfer, because I want to know what's the reason. And the reason would be, well, my child or the student attended previously, so okay. The student remains responsible to the assigned school based on the school attendance areas until effective start date. So that was just a clarification. So I understand that requests are approved for 1 school year only. This is existing language. It's my responsibility to complete a new form by May 1 prior to the school year for which a transfer is requested. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute, you had March 15th, but that's for that 1 year only, because we're going to be resetting all the attendance areas. We need to know earlier how many students, how many staff we're going to need for the 1920. Then after that, this would be by May 1st. So we may want to add a clause in there, just, March 15th for folks that for the 1920 school year.
You're going to have to,
But
because otherwise this will come back.
Yeah. So
May.
So
Yeah.
you know that will,
But it says right here.
yeah. And I knew that was going to come up when I showed it. I thought, well, but typically this would be our regular date, and will be. But we need to make that a clarification, because I don't want somebody to come in and say, well, I only saw the May 1st, not the March 15th.
Right.
So So we'll need to clarify that. But after that, the form's the same. The form really only updates to know how can I identify that a student previously attended, and that's why they're requesting the transfer.
So is there going to be some sort of communication to the families that are changing schools that this is an option?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to send out multiple communications in multiple ways.
Okay.
Because then it's going to become and this is the way it's worked in many districts I've either worked in or checked with,
Okay.
right? So then their date and time stamp.
So you've been in communication with other districts that have changed boundaries?
Oh, I've lived through it as a principal 4 times. My own building's attendance area changed 4 times in 7 years.
Okay.
So it's pretty standard protocol. What I would recommend is as they came in, their date and time stamp, because you might have 5 come in on the same day. And then you go in order.
Does it say that they will be treated on a first come, first?
It does not, but that's not something that's something we could add easily.
Well, if you're actually thinking of doing that, because otherwise I would just say
I think we need to be as clear as possible.
Yeah, if it's, as long as you're in by the deadline, I would assume you have an equal chance otherwise.
Because the only other way you do it then is by lottery. Because then how do you determine?
Right.
Can you make a note on the form that will note that? Thank you. Yeah.
And then this is a form that's a hard paper form that they physically turn in?
Yep. So
They
we
can
can
download it from the website though, can't they?
Yes, they will be able to. Eventually, my goal would be that this would be electronic. You could fill it online and then it would automatically come. We're not there yet, but
Some year.
so I do agree. I think we need to be as clear as possible, and we can make those additions. And probably up here even, for in bold for the 2019-20 school year, the deadline is March 15th.
Yeah, I think it's good to have the early deadline so
And
that
I
we
think if we
can
put it
have an
up top,
idea of what we're going to be working
we have
with.
to. If we don't, it's going to be a mess.
I would even suggest that you do an open also, because people then will say, well, I didn't find out about it until later, and until 2 weeks after. If you're going to do it on a timestamp basis of when they come in, I would suggest you say, okay, the request time is from this date to this date, to give everybody an equal opportunity.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We'll be accepting them between such and such date and such. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because otherwise...
Yeah, we publicize it now, but then have
That's
the
a great
first 2
idea.
weeks in March or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shannon, that's a great idea, Susan, because otherwise, they could say, well, I didn't get the information.
Right.
No.
Right.
So that's an unfair advantage, but, so, yeah.
So, we'll be accepting them during this 2-week window. After that, we can still accept them, but they're not going to be considered until after May 1st.
Well, then it would almost just resort to an in-district transfer rather than trying to accommodate.
Correct.
Right.
Right. That's exactly, it would default to number 2.
Yeah.
So anyway, really appreciate these suggestions. Like I said, it's an attempt to try to address what we're hearing from parents, and so it's only a discussion item tonight, obviously. So if you have other feedback or questions or thoughts, please email those to me, and I'll be happy to take a look at those. But this is our first attempt, so I'm trying to keep it really simple and to the point.
I think there's an element of fairness in it and accommodation. It's the best.
Yeah, that was the goal. The goal was to try to accommodate the wishes
And
and
accommodation.
put in a process and an opportunity.
And it gives us that year transition period.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
And then the agenda just shows that, as you discussed, 3130 policy and procedure was voted for deletion.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Then we have some informational items, the procedure for the immunization and anaphylaxis prevention policies. And then, if there are no objections, we'll go ahead and recess into an executive session for the purpose of evaluating complaints against public employees and hearing about negotiations. About how long do you think?
20 minutes.
Okay, so 20-minute executive session, so no action will be taken, and at the conclusion of the executive session, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, audience.
Thanks for coming tonight.